The Forbidden Palace, Peking. We can only imagine a little the wondrous sight of very early morning at the palace when the court rituals took place. These jackets and skirts, worn symbolically by the court concubines as they light the palace, are examples of the finest wearable textile art in the world. This dragon skirt is worked with the finest chain stitch I have ever seen. This short little wedding jacket has forbidden stitch, the tiniest I've ever seen. It is magnified here 5 times, forbidden stitch. There are 2 reasons why it was forbidden. One, the emperor wished to wear it alone, and many girls went blind doing it, so fine was the work. This jacket is embellished with gold-couched waves and wheat, the finest couching I have ever seen. The concubines would never again be allowed to leave the palace, and often their love and passion would be used on their embroidery. Court rituals and the marvellous silk robes were intended to impress and overwhelm the foreigners with the realities of civilization. Marco Polo described his feelings on meeting the great Kublai Khan for the first time. Never had I seen such overwhelming splendor, such wealth. The Khan with his 4 wives and 1,000 concubines and 10,000 court attendants, all clothed in wondrous silks. Everyone given a new robe each month. No other king on earth could match his power and wealth. Here we are seeing the costumes from the 2nd Mongolian court and high officials of the Qing dynasty, with more embellishment, more brilliant colors than the Kublai Khan's court. 4,000 years ago, Emperor Shum organized the symbols to be embroidered or woven on the garments of his writers, politicians, officials, and military. Every symbol had a meaning, and these same symbols have continued to appear on Chinese art forms. We often hear that the imperial dragon had 5 claws. Although this was generally true, not everyone is aware of the fact that in the Tang dynasty it was 3 claws, and in the Sung and Ming it was 4 claws. Embroidery was always a woman's skill. Many of the palace women undertook embroidery not just as a pastime, as is often thought, but because they had to earn their living. Embroidery had to be done to a very high degree, since it was thought that the more beautiful embroidery a woman produced, the more virtuous, refined, intelligent, and therefore more marriageable she was. Large pieces of embroidery were worked by 2 women. The robe hung between them, and they passed the needle back and forth, creating the same design on both sides of the fabric. Then, as today, a joint effort was more profitable, for people working happily work harder. During the Ming Dynasty, Mandarin squares first appeared on the robes of court officials. These large embroidered squares indicated rank and were worn by military personnel and by the officials of the court. The square contained extremely beautiful embroidery and would sometimes take as long as 1 year to complete. So superb was the workmanship and so fine the detail. Military ranks were denoted by different animals, and literary men were identified by different birds. This Mandarin square lion is couched in gold and belonged to the second-rank naval official. This Chinese yellow brocade man's robe has been recut and remade in the Tibetan style, called chuba. Although many women had to earn their living by doing embroidery, it is important not to overstress the obligations of the ladies to embroider. That they enjoyed their artistry is evident. Such textile art could only come from women who took pleasure in what they were doing. Though largely homebound, these ladies were far from sad. As their husband's most important possession, they were respected, adored, treasured and protected, indeed, set on a pedestal. Only a few prostitutes ventured outside. True ladies were seldom seen in the streets or even at windows. For them, embroidery was a creative outlet, giving the greatest joy. Their life, controlled though it was often more serene and happy, especially in the homes of the most aristocratic families of China, from which the most beautiful silk embroideries came. The art of embroidery flourished under the Qing dynasty, when through imperial patronage, the richly decorated silk robes of the court were produced. Made in an age when magnificence was the goal, these costumes remain as examples of the final achievement of silk culture and the technical handling of the material. First and foremost among the centers of embroidery during the Qing period was Suqiao, where the finest pieces were made. All imperial courts had hundreds of embroiderers making robes and wall hangings for the royal family.